Hey everyone, today I want to talk about some of the big changes to real estate agent compensation and how that affects you as a home seller or a home buyer in your transactions going forward starting in August of 2024. So the old way is where the seller would pay a certain fee to their seller's agent, and then the seller's agent would share a part of that fee with the buyer's agent. So the seller would pay the seller's agent that would then share with the buyer's agent. You notice that in this picture, in the old way, we have a seller, a seller's agent, and a buyer's agent, but we don't have any buyers in this picture. This is what we used to call a unilateral offer of compensation, where the seller and the seller's agent are unilaterally deciding what the buyer's agent would get paid, and the buyer's agent would then be bound by that compensation. In the new way, starting August of 2024, we have a system where the buyer, now we have a buyer in the picture, the buyer has a buyer's representation agreement with an agent who they choose. And this agreement is going to say that this buyer's agent is going to get compensated 3 oranges for their services if they find and close on a house. Now, the seller is still having an agreement, the listing agreement, with their seller's agent saying, I'm going to pay you 3 oranges to sell my house. What's going to happen when a buyer goes and writes an offer on a house that they really like is the buyer's offer is going to look something like this. The buyer is going to say, hey seller, I love your house. I want to pay $1 million for your house. In addition, I have an agreement with my buyer's agent that they will be compensated 3 oranges. So I would like you, the seller, to help me out with the credit and pay my buyer's agent 3 oranges. So it would go like this. Under the California Standard Buyer Representation Agreement, any amount that the seller or some other third party decides to pay for the buyer's agent fee eliminates this buyer's obligation to pay these 3 oranges. So say the seller said, buyer, I love your offer. I love the $1 million, but you know what? I can only pay your buyer's agent 2 oranges. The rest you're going to have to take care of on your own. Then the buyer would only be on the hook for the remaining 1 orange to pay their buyer's agent. As you can see, it seems kind of complicated, but it's actually not. We have a seller who has an agreement with their seller's agent. We have a buyer who has an agreement with their buyer's agent. And now, instead of having a unilateral offer of compensation system, we have a system where the parties are agreeing to what the compensation and fees will be. In my opinion, now it's a lot more transparent who is paying what fee. Another big change that has come out of these new August 2024 rule changes is that before any buyer's agent can go and show a property to a buyer, whether a private showing, accompanying a buyer to an open house, or even doing a virtual showing, before any buyer's agent can do that, the buyer's agent is required to have a written buyer's representation agreement with their buyer. And that representation agreement is a standard form that's going to outline how long the agreement is for and what the buyer's agent's fee is. Reach out if you have any questions or need any clarification about what this means to you as someone who's maybe trying to buy a house in the near future, or maybe someone who's trying to sell a house, or maybe both. Reach out.